Hello my fabulous book friends, welcome back to my channel, and today, because I've been gone for quite a bit, I wanted to share some of my recent reads with you all and give you my quick little thoughts on them. This is obviously not everything I've read. I've read so much in the past couple months or so. As of right now, I'm definitely at like about 122, maybe 123 books read this year, so like I can't talk about them all clearly in one video, but I did want to highlight some recent reads that I think would be interesting to you. So let's get right into it. Okay, so one of, I think, my most biggest surprises of the year is Starfish by Lisa Fipps. It is a middle grade novel written in verse, which generally I do love books written in verse. I didn't know that this was middle grade until I was at the bookstore and I was looking for this book. Literally, I was in the YA section and I couldn't find it, so I'm like, okay, whatever. I guess they sold out or something, who knows? And then my friend and I went into the middle grade section. She's like, oh my god, this book is so great, you should read it. I'm like, oh my god, I was literally just finding it. So this is about a little girl who was bullied about her weight constantly ever since she wore some kind of whale suit to her birthday party a few years ago, and like obviously the cloud of bullying and mean comments and all that stuff has just been following her ever since, right into her first year of high school, I believe, or middle school. But because she's bullied so much, not only by her peers and just people in general when her and her family are out in public, but she gets it a lot from her own siblings and her mother. And it seems like her father's the only person behind her corner, which I think is really sweet and adorable. He's actually the one who pushes her into therapy, which helps her work through her feelings and her emotions. And anyways, it's just such a lovely story. And I think anybody who's been bullied by their weight, or, you know, who has felt different because of the way they look, I think that you would really appreciate this book and be able to connect with the character even though she's so young. I think this book is for all ages, not just middle graders. I really recommend this book. It was a short read, so like if you're trying to bump up your numbers for the end of the year, like highly recommend you read this for not only that case, but of course for all of the other reasons that I just listed. And now, next up, because thank gosh, Book of the Month is finally available in Canada. And I was so happy to be able to like just join in on the excitement of Book of the Month. And I wouldn't have bought this book either way because here in Canada, hardcovers are expensive. I looked this book up on a bookstore website and this is like $37 and I got it for super cheap, this one. So I'm very happy with Book of the Month. I know the pricing, not in Canada, it's $26.99 a month. And I know people like aren't too pleased about that. I also find it somewhat slightly expensive, but at the same time, when you look at all these hyped up books and they never are on sale, like on Indigo or something, they're always full price. So like to me, it's worth it because I always tend to want to read these books because people hype it up so much on Bookstagram. So anyways, that was a long-winded explanation and lead up to the fact that my first Book of the Month choice was Someday Maybe by Oni Nwabineli. This book is about a woman who is dealing with the loss of her husband after he killed himself, and she was the one who found him, which is really depressing and sad. I'm definitely, after reading this book, I'm totally gearing up for like a sad girl winter. So like if I'm depressed in January, this is probably the reason why, because this book has just wanted me to read more books about grief. I don't know why. That's I guess the kind of mood I'm in. Anyway, so it's basically about her working through her grief, which obviously she doesn't really do that well, but I mean, how do you come back from the loss, from dealing with such a loss that has impacted like every aspect of your life? So it's not really a novel that's dramatic, or I know a lot of people say like nothing much happens in this book, which is kind of true, but it's more about the grief process and like the steps you take to get out of that hole. I think she took a long time to get out of it, which like anybody would, but I think it was the journey that was really endearing, I think, and you just really wanted to give her a huge hug. And I really love this book. Again, I know it's not going to be everybody's cup of tea, but if you love character-driven novels especially, then I think this book is totally for you. The next book I've kind of read recently that is also a short book and perfect for anything that you want to use to bump up your Goodreads goal for the end of the year is A Minor Course by Billy Ray Belcourt. This was on the long list of the Giller Prize here in Canada, and it was so, I don't know, it's just very poetic. I loved the story and the characters. This book is about an unnamed narrator who basically quits their job as an academic, or I guess their thesis, if that's probably more correct. he quits his thesis. You know, he leaves the academic world and he goes back home to northern Alberta, I believe, and he really wants to pursue his dreams in becoming a writer and writing a novel that really represents the life and the people who live there, the indigenous folks that live there and all that stuff. So it's kind of him going around and like interviewing people, talking to them, learning about their lives, and through it like you get a lot of heartbreak, a lot of really sad stories, which I think obviously in the day and age that we're living in Canada with the indigenous people and indigenous relations, I think this is a really important book to read. I think it's very timely, of course, and definitely you can learn a lot about just like regular everyday people who have been suffering from intergenerational trauma. I think it's such a good story and essential reading, especially for Canadians, for sure. Fair warning for this next book, I never read graphic novels, but I just had to get this book, A Career in Books, written and illustrated by Kate Gavino. I work in books, so it just made sense for me to want to read a book about books. Like, I just love them. I've been really wanting more of them lately. Look at these illustrations. It's such a good story, not only about working in publishing, but the whole journey of like being an assistant and being at the lowest level of the company. And not only that, these characters are Asian characters. So obviously that's like much harder to get into the industry and much harder to be taken seriously in this industry that we're in because of their race. It was such a sweet story. Then they found this old woman who was a writer. She won the Booker Prize, I believe. Yes, Booker Prize. I wasn't sure if they used the exact title, but she did win the Booker Prize like years ago, and she had that one breakout novel, and then nobody cared about the rest of her books because she wrote about Asian women's lives and relationships and things like that. So they were basically had their own personal mission to get this lady republished, you know, to a new set of eyes, a new, more modern audience, which would obviously appreciate her books. But yeah, I think it was such a good full circle moment for these characters. Really great storytelling, great illustrations. I loved it. Another quick-ish book to read. I enjoyed this so much. I don't think you need to work in publishing to enjoy this book, to be honest. The next book I wanted to highlight was The Push by Ashley Audrain. Kind of a throwback book, I think. It's been out for a little while. I do prefer the US cover edition more, but this is just what we have available in Canada, so it's fine. I really liked the suspense aspect of the novel. I didn't like the ending too much because I just felt like it was one of those ones that like it just happened too fast and it was just annoying. I hate when books do that, but it's fine. But I think like the writing was really good. If you're into the themes of like motherhood, children who are evil, things like that, like I think that you would really like this. Do I think it was as much of a breakout novel as it was marketed to be? I'm not sure. I don't think so, but I mean, what can you do? Like, I read it, I enjoyed it, I moved on. That's all that matters. One book that was on the shortlist of the Giller Prize this year, which I absolutely loved, was If an Egyptian Cannot Speak English by Noor Naga. If The Sleeping Car Porter didn't win, like that was my first prediction to win. This was my second one as like a wild card. I really loved this book. Again, I don't think it's for everybody. It's very literary. It's about two unnamed narrators. One is a female, one is a male. It's kind of borders on abuse, I think. From what I understood it, I could mean other things. Again, it's literary, so you can literally take whatever meaning from it that you want. But I thought it was really well written, and then it split into 3 parts. So the first part is written like with some kind of philosophical question, and then like a short paragraph or a couple page paragraph about what's happening with the characters. The second part is like full out novel, so we get the flipping point of views between the characters, and we get more of a sense of where the relationship is at when they move in together again during that part. And then the third part is like a complete shift. We're at the perspective of an outsider looking into a writing therapy, or I guess a writing group session. And it's Noor Naga herself in that writing group, and she's presenting this novel to the rest of the group, and all of those other people are making comments and arguing about what the, you know, like what she's trying to say with the novel and why it shouldn't be that way, or they all have their own opinions. And again, like it was just so unique, very literary again, but it's just such a unique story. Like you have different parts that symbolize different things, and then they're all written in like different ways. It's just, it blew me away. I think I was more in love with like the writing and such a turn it took at the end that I wasn't expecting, that I loved so much. Anyways, I think if you're curious or if you want to read something different, I think this would be a good bet. I can't promise you'll like it, but I can promise you that it will leave you a lot to think about, and it'll leave you with many questions, but in a good way, I hope. Actually, I also just recently realized that or not realized, I actually found out, like, I think yesterday, I put it on hold already at the library, that her debut novel was a novel written in verse. I'm like, oh my god, I love books written in verse. So I have it on hold through the Libby app. So I can't wait to read that and see what it's about. I think it would be a good read. Again, a short read, novel in verse. Sold. And the last book I have to show you is a book that I'm reading right now for a buddy read. It is called Anywhere You Run by Wanda M. Morris. I absolutely loved her debut book, which is here somewhere actually. It might be behind my big head, but it's fine. It was All Her Little Secrets. It's a red book cover. You'll know it when you see it. That was such a great book, and I'm so happy I'm reading this one, her second novel, which, by the way, does not fall to the curse of the sophomore novel. I'm happy to report that any good thing you've read about this book is entirely true. Don't sleep on this book or this author. Her first novel was about a Black woman in the business world. She was promoted recently because some guy died, and anyways, it was a good story. So that took place in modern times. This is more of a historical setting. It's about it was almost about to say historical thriller, but I don't think that would be right. It's a historical setting. It takes place in the 1960s in the south of the US. So obviously, like, you've got the Jim Crow, you've got white people, very segregated society. And I didn't think, at first, the first couple pages, I'm like, okay, I don't know about this. But now that I'm deeper into this novel, I'm like, whoa, I need to like keep reading to see what happens. Like, as soon as I'm done editing this video, this is all I'm gonna do, is just finish this book, hopefully today. But it's about two sisters who are on the run. One of them is being tracked down by somebody because he's trying to find the other sister because she has something that could implicate other people and stuff. The sister that's being tracked is pregnant with some white man's child, and she's basically on the run from social shame. Basically, from what I remember from the back cover. But it is so good. I love it so far. Wanda M. Morris is a fantastic writer, and I just need more books from her. I think she's definitely leading up to one of my favorites. So highly recommend her books. I can't wait to finish this. And there you have it. Thank you for watching my very chaotic recent reads from probably October and whatever I've read this month. Who knows? I don't know when I've read some of these. Time has been escaping me lately, so that's where I am. But anyways, thank you so much for watching. If you've read any of the books I've showed, please let me know. Or if you want to read them and you want to know more because I probably didn't explain them properly, just let me know in the comments below. I'd be happy to write out paragraphs of words for you, gladly. Don't forget to give this video a huge thumbs up, subscribe, and stay tuned for our next video.